How's it going, everybody? This is Tyler Driver. I hope you're having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Alright, those that may remember seeing The Blind Side may remember a guy named Michael Oher. Well, he was that guy in the film that came from a very rough childhood in which, at one point, he was almost homeless to having a very successful career in the NFL, all thanks to the help of his adopted family, the Tuohy family. Well, at the very least, we thought it was his adopted family. However, recent events that have taken place in the last couple months have proven otherwise. And so with things that are having recently come to a head, I thought I'd use this video to talk about the controversy that has happened lately with Michael Oher and the Tuohy family, in which he ended up being placed in a conservatorship instead of being under adoption, and basically everything else that happened since then. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about his story, how this controversy ended up happening, and where things go from here in regards to the legacy of the film The Blind Side, and ultimately what happens now. So obviously Michael Oher played as an offensive lineman in the NFL for 8 seasons from 2009 all the way to the end of the 2016 season. While he was there, he won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens and had a pretty successful career. Though his story really started out rather rough, because at one point during his life as a kid, he was almost homeless. In fact, he was really struggling during that time to be able to really have a happy life with his family. Not only that, he was also struggling quite a bit in school as well. In fact, at one point he repeated the first grade and the second grade as well. And in fact, he also moved around quite a bit as well. He was even placed in multiple schools during the early part of his childhood, to the fact that he was really struggling just to be able to really get his grades up. And so during the time that he was a child, he was really having a very rough life, especially with the way things were going with his family at the time and the living conditions that they were in. Ultimately, while he was a freshman in high school, he would join the football team, and ultimately he would start playing football there for at least the next 4 years as well. And it was during that time that he ultimately met Lee and Tuohy and her family, in which they ultimately came together and they agreed to adopt Michael Oher into their family, or at least we thought it was an adoption. From there, he was able to make it through the end of high school using some special education, so that way he can be able to graduate from there and ultimately go to college, in which he decided to go to Ole Miss. However, that was the subject of controversy in itself, because it really led to an investigation by the NCAA in regards to a bunch of irregularities that had taken place between that time, especially since he had gotten multiple offers from a whole bunch of other prominent colleges nationwide as well. Ultimately, they did let that go, and he ultimately would end up going there for 4 years and really was an All-American. He played very well at Ole Miss during this time, and he ultimately received his bachelor's degree at the end of his 4 years there in criminal justice. And it was from there that he would ultimately enter the 2009 NFL Draft, where he would be selected by the, as mentioned, Baltimore Ravens. As I said before, he played 8 years there, especially his highlight year coming in 2012, in which he won the Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. That will without doubt be the highlight of his career and his life, and ultimately he retired at the end of the 2016 season. And of course, it was because of his story that The Blind Side would ultimately come out in 2009, shortly after he was drafted in the NFL Draft. Of course, we all know that Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw will ultimately be in that film, and even though it did receive mixed reviews, it really became a very unique film, and really a popular one as well, because it really touched on the struggles that Michael Oher was going through at that time, just so that way he can be able to get through all of those shortcomings and really get the success that he was having at that time to now. Now again, this was at a time in which we all thought that it was through an adoption, but now, unfortunately, we realized that the entire thing was a lie. In August, just last month, Michael Oher revealed that it was actually never an adoption. In fact, he revealed that he was actually put under a conservatorship by the Tuohy family, and which he was prevented from receiving royalties as a result of that. In fact, all the millions of dollars that the Tuohy family had made off of that, they basically kept it for themselves. Michael Oher ended up getting nothing out of all of that. So basically, we realized that this entire time, it was never an adoption. He was basically put under this conservatorship for that Tuohy family's advantage. I was honestly shocked when I first heard about this, because it really made me rethink everything about this whole entire story. That Michael Oher came from a very difficult upbringing to have a very successful life as an NFL player, to all of a sudden now being revealed that he was basically being taken advantage of. I mean, I don't know where in the world that this was hidden during those years in which he rose into the NFL and ultimately his life was projected in The Blind Side, but man, this was just absolutely shocking to hear. Ultimately, for the next month, it would go through a bunch of court proceedings and ultimately a lot of legal battles, and just earlier this week, a judge announced that she was officially bringing an end to the conservatorship, saying that she just could not believe that a guy like Michael Oher would end up being subjected into something like this. So at least as far as we know, the conservatorship is coming to an end. Michael Oher is going to be a free man, I think, and ultimately whatever happens with him and the Tuohy family moving forward, we'll just have to see from there. But man, this story turned ugly very fast. So yeah, this is a story that basically just came out of nowhere and really made us rethink everything about the situation with Michael Oher and his upbringing. The fact that he ultimately was being forced into a conservatorship when we originally thought that it was an adoption, I think that took quite a bit of people that have followed him and his story by absolute surprise, and it especially shocked me as well because I remember seeing The Blind Side early when I was a kid, and it was really such a great film that I thought really encapsulated his rise from homelessness into an NFL star. Now we know it was all because he was just being taken advantage of. And yeah, I really think that it does now leave a really big dark stain on that actual film itself. I really feel like now that because of what we have learned lately, the entire film now was basically a lie. Everything that we initially thought of when we saw the film, it was now completely the exact opposite of what happened. Now, I'm not saying go after Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw. I still think they did a great job with the film, and I still think it is a really great film that really accurately portrays Michael Oher's upbringing. Unfortunately, we now know that the rest of the story after that, it was now completely false. So really, I think the first thing that I have to really talk about is Michael Oher himself. First off, I feel really bad for him now. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, we really followed him for 8 years in the NFL, and especially with all the struggles that he was going through before then and during his college years at Ole Miss. I mean, he came through so much. As I said before, he repeated 2 grades in elementary school and moved around multiple times, went to multiple schools because of his difficult upbringing. In fact, he was nearly failing in school multiple times, as we saw. And just seeing the struggle that he was going through at that time, it was just really heartwarming to see him be able to have the success that he did in the NFL when he became an adult. But to hear him reveal now that this was not actually what happened, in fact, that it was really a conservatorship that he was placed under, it really breaks my heart because it really makes me wonder now, why would the Tuohy family be projected in a positive light like this when we now know that that was not exactly what happened? They never really adopted him. They basically just took all the money that they had earned by the promotion of Michael Oher's life and basically just used it for themselves. I mean, that's as far as what we have earned so far, but I just don't know why, you know, people have to really hide the real meaning of what happened like this and just really just, you know, hide the fact that, you know, there may be something different that was actually going on behind the scenes when, you know, it was alleged to be one thing when we now know that it was a completely different thing. But yeah, I'm really happy for Michael Oher that he's got what he wanted now. I mean, I really hope though that he does get his money back for everything that has happened for him because I really feel like that he deserves it because he really went through quite a bit just so that way he can be able to get to his point in his life. And for him to be taken advantage of by a Tuohy family like this, I just feel like that is just wrong. And the fact that the Tuohy family would lie about everything that happened with Michael Oher and the fact that, you know, like, he actually was put in this conservatorship instead of being adopted just so they can take advantage of all the fame that he had gotten during his time in college football and the NFL. It's just wrong, and I definitely feel like that it really puts into question the conservatorship thing in general as well. And remember, pop star Britney Spears, she was put in a conservatorship for almost the majority of her adult life until a few years ago or something like that. I mean, obviously she was prevented from having a boyfriend or something like that, and every one of her finances and everything else that was going on in her life was really put under extreme watch by her parents. And really, a lot of that reason for them is because they felt like that Britney was going to go crazy insane or something like that. I don't really know if that would have really been the case, but obviously she is out for conservatorship now. And again, I just feel like that, you know, conservatorships should be put on a much more centralized focus because really, you know, you never know exactly what's going to go on under a conservatorship because of everything that could potentially take place in regards to, you know, finances and fame, and, you know, maybe even protection as well. You know, you'll never know what goes on under there. And it just goes to show you that, like under a conservatorship, since we now have 2 cases in which this has actually happened, when you're put under a conservatorship, your entire life is put under watch by a certain person. And really, it just goes to show you that, no matter what you go through, if you're put under there, you're not going to be very lucky. Somebody else is going to take advantage of you just to make sure that, they put you under their watch and to make sure that, you go by their way or the highway. I just don't like that. And I really feel like that, in regards to these situations, if this was a regular adoption, like it was originally stated with Michael Oher and the Tuohy family, fine, it would be a happy ending. But now that we're learning that it's because of conservatorship, you really need to understand the consequences of what could potentially happen in this kind of situation. Taking advantage of people's fame for your own will is obviously not a good thing. We've seen so many instances of that. We've seen a lot of people that really took advantage of somebody's rise because they were really keeping watch over them, or really just just trying to see if they can rip away a lot away from them because they were the ones that brought them the fame that they were as well. We've seen this in music, we've seen this in sports, in entertainment. We have seen so many instances in so many industries in which so many of the most celebrated people in all of those industries have been taken advantage of for their own careers as a result of somebody else's greed. I just don't understand why things like this has to happen, and I just don't think it is fair for those that are put under this situation to end up being put under a microscope because somebody else was taking advantage of them. So yeah, I really think that the idea of the conservatorship should really be put under a more centralized focus. I don't think it should be ended entirely, but I do think that the practice needs to be put under a more extreme work because I feel like that in this situation, we really need to have a better understanding of what really goes on in that kind of situation. In regards to the Tuohy family, there's no coming back from this. I feel like now that their credibility and their fame has basically been tainted, and they're not going to be basically seen as liars, obviously. And it's just such a shame because, like I said before, Michael Oher, he worked through so much, and so for this family to really take advantage of him like this, it just stinks. I mean, we'll obviously see what the situation is from there in regards to the Tuohy family. I mean, they called Oher's claims ridiculous and absurd. Well, it doesn't matter now because the conservatorship just ended, but as I said before, at least in regards to credibility, the Tuohy family is never going to come back from this. And in regards to the legacy of the blind side, and ultimately, both Michael Oher's life and the Tuohy family, I definitely believe that is going to be put under a different light now. I definitely feel like that there's going to be a lot more questions now in regards to this kind of situation than answers, because as I said before, this was first initially thought to be an adoption, basically turned into a successful life story, into a successful NFL career and a Super Bowl title. Now we're learning that his entire life was basically taken advantage of, and because of that, it really brings a lot of holes now into that film made back in 2009, and ultimately everything that took place between the Tuohy family and Michael Oher. I just feel like now that this basically puts the entire thing under a microscope. So yeah, it's really a shame to see what happened, that we're learning that everything that we have learned about Michael Oher's story was now basically a lie, at least in regards to, his adoption with the Tuohy family. Now that we're knowing that it is an actual conservatorship, hopefully Michael Oher will be able to get everything he wants now and really live the life that he really wanted. But as I said before, everything that we had originally learned about the blind side and ultimately both Oher and the Tuohy family, I think it now just whipped a big black hole, and I feel like that this is now going to be put under question for a very long time, and I think it's going to remain that way until the very end of this ultimate chapter. So that's my take on this whole situation. I just wanted to get my thoughts on this since learning that the conservatorship has now ended, because I really feel ashamed that Michael Oher was put under this situation, and I really feel like that we really need to have a better understanding in regards to conservatorships, and along with, helping other people get to where they are now without taking away from their fame as well. So I really want to hear from you. What do you think about this situation? Do you now have a different opinion of the film The Blind Side along with Michael Oher and the Tuohy family because of this situation? And do you really think that the conservatorship really needs to be put under a much bigger focus? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be more than interested in hearing your opinions about it. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. Comment below for future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's blogs, projects, or challenges, you name it. Leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. As always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you're having another great day. As always, I hope to see you all again in another video very soon. So long, everybody.